Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Yu-Ling Lee, an education professor, and in this video I'll be experimenting with Sora, the text-to-video AI model developed by OpenAI. In education, teachers often use videos as case studies, analyzing them to improve their teaching and learning. So I'm analyzing two videos that I created using Sora. We're going to dive into these clips, break down what works, what doesn't, and of course, what the AI gets hilariously wrong. This is going to be part analysis, part critique, and part comedy as we explore how AI imagines best practices in teaching. Let's get started. Now, because everything is still experimental, I wanted to explain my process in experimenting with AI. First, I began with a question in ChatGPT. I have to say I'm a Plus member, so I have access to their current GPT 4.0 model, as well as Sora. So this is what I asked ChatGPT. What are the top 2 tips you would recommend for teachers to help improve their teaching? And here's a response from ChatGPT. Here are the 2 key tips for teachers to help improve their teaching, focusing on engagement, effectiveness, and adaptability. First, create an inclusive classroom environment, and there's some subpoints like fostering a sense of belonging. Second, incorporate active learning strategies. So a quick note, these are just headings, and there were actually more lengthy explanations that I received from ChatGPT. So once I had these 2 tips, I accessed Sora that has a similar interface. With some minor editing, I entered the first tip about creating an inclusive classroom environment into Sora, and it generated the following. Create a case study about a teacher designing an inclusive classroom environment. Highlight strategies the teacher uses. Foster a sense of belonging where all students feel respected and valued, regardless of their background or learning abilities. Use universal design for learning principles to provide multiple means of representation, engagement, and expression in the lessons. Embrace diverse learning styles and offer flexible ways for students to demonstrate understanding. Okay, let's do a deeper dive into this video. When I look at video case studies with my students who are aiming to be teachers, I ask them first, identify an issue or theme. Second, what are the positives? What specific teaching strategies or classroom management techniques do you see the teacher using effectively? And third, what challenges or potential issues do you observe in the teacher's approach or classroom dynamics? Let's start our video analysis and note the bottom right-hand corner shows it's an AI-generated video. Of course, there are weird AI flaws like teachers continually changing within the scenes. Some students may have unnatural or distracting behaviors like having blank stares. And of course, Sora can't produce real text quite yet. Despite the generative AI issues, a first theme that comes to mind from the video is creating an inclusive classroom. Some positive aspects include the teacher seems to be fostering respect and inclusion. Another positive is most students appeared engaged and included. And there's another teacher, a co-teacher or educational assistant in the classroom. And what are the challenges? Well, does the teacher focus too much on certain students while neglecting others? Are there students who seem left out or disengaged? We see in one corner at least there are 2 students being overlooked. So the teacher should actively try to include them in the learning, or perhaps the educational assistant can be there supporting those students. Let's see the second scene. I think the theme here would be fostering a sense of belonging. Overall, I like this video, and the teacher arranged the classroom in a double circle pattern so everyone can be easily visible. There's a clear attempt to build rapport using the seating arrangement, and also the name tags so everyone can readily identify one another. In terms of challenges, I would question whether this double circle arrangement would be helpful for the entire class. And of course, there are weird AI flaws. Some of the students seem overly smiley to me. I always appreciate positive engagement with students, but this kind of reaction can be deemed really artificial. Okay, the third video is particularly strange. This teacher is recognizing diverse backgrounds. I'm assuming that's hinted by the many flags on display and a little student diversity now in cultural backgrounds. And yet, the students are mindlessly staring into space in different directions while the teacher happily performs some teacherly movements, which seems really odd. Overall, I find this video particularly jarring. This next clip, I think the theme would be teachers supporting students with disabilities. So we see here that one teacher is helping a student in a wheelchair. The boy has earphones as well as a screen. Typically, technologies are used for personalized learning, especially for those who require additional support in their learning. I should also note that a few other students are using headphones in the back, which seems to indicate that this is a common practice in the classroom. Of course, a challenge with any educational technology is how to use it well to support the student learning instead of becoming a distraction to the learning. There's also a second teacher or educational assistant seated at the same table. This is helpful, especially if this particular kid needs more help. Now, the prompt for these last two clips was to focus on UDL, Universal Design for Learning. UDL is an educational framework to accommodate learning differences through multiple means of representation, expression, and engagement of learning. So in this first clip, the teacher provides multiple ways to engage with the material, such as having a whiteboard, chart paper, projected screen, and students have access to multiple devices. Now in the second clip, while there are no devices, it can also suggest UDL practices where students can express their understanding through the materials on the desk. There's also a whiteboard in the back, and it can be used for teaching or expressing student understanding. What's fascinating in this second video is that the AI purposefully included a student who seemed to have a learning disability, but looks to be fully included in the class. Now let's look at the second case study video. Here's the prompt. Create a case study about a teacher implementing active learning strategies in the classroom. Include examples of how the teacher transitions from traditional lectures to interactive methods such as group discussions, problem-solving activities, and hands-on projects. Highlight the use of serious games or simulations for complex topics, and explain how these strategies improve student engagement and deepen understanding. In this first clip, I would ask whether the teacher is clearly using a teaching strategy, such as asking open-ended questions or enabling collaboration in the class. It's hard to say as the teacher is looking at a book, but the students seem to be engaged in collaborative discussion. It's also interesting to note that all the other teachers generated by Sora so far have been female, and this is the first male teacher. I'm not sure why Sora did that. Now the second clip brings back a female teacher, and I think the idea here focuses on dynamic classroom engagement. We can readily see that students are engaged with all the accessible technologies. What I am wondering is whether there is now a mix of older and younger students, or perhaps multiple teachers or teaching assistants along with the students at each table. This third video clip, I think the idea here is interactive learning experience. Of course, the use of a tablet with an app can be a creative way to facilitate active learning, whereas for many classrooms, such technologies are not readily accessible. The last clip is for learning in action. Now, instead of using technologies, the students are doing so-called hands-on projects with materials, and we see paint, paper, and scissors. This is probably a realistic way of showcasing active learning strategies in most classrooms, especially in elementary school. So as an education prof, what did I learn with my first introduction into Sora? Well, Sora's bite-sized AI-generated clips might not give us a full-length teaching case study, but the videos are excellent tools for sparking discussion. They provide a starting point for analyzing key teaching practices, identifying gaps, and exploring solutions. And for educators and future teachers, this is amazing because real learning happens when we engage critically and think about how to apply these teaching and learning concepts in our own classroom. And of course, let's not ignore the AI flaws, such as the expressionless students or the teacher who's mindlessly waving her arms. These quirks are actually helpful. They're helpful teaching tools because they force us to think critically, and we should ask what's unrealistic here, and how can we do better in a real classroom? For example, if all the students appear uniformly engaged, it's worth discussing how engagement varies in real classrooms and what strategies we might use to support less enthusiastic learners. While text-to-video models are far from perfect, and honestly that's part of the fun, it's a tool that encourages reflection, experimentation, and conversation. So if you're an educator, I would challenge you to dive in and take a closer look at these case studies to see what we can learn. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more educational content. And as always, feel free to leave your questions and comments below. See you next time.